Welcome to STEAM State of Mind, your favorite source for all things STEAM education.
STEAM State of Mind.
This isn't just science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. It's a state of mind, a different way to approach education in the classroom.
STEAM State of Mind.
Enjoy these conversations with educators, students, and community members as we explore what it means to be in a STEAM state of mind.
STEAM State of Mind.
Hi, this is Kari from Kettering.
And this is Bern.
And we are here with the STEAM State of Mind. Great to have you all here with us. And Bern, we're going to be talking about a hot topic in the world of education today, and that is collective teacher efficacy, CTE. So why don't we start with what exactly is CTE?
Well, CTE is a hot topic right now because of the research and the studies from John Hattie. And John Hattie is a specialist and he's a guru on what are the most effective teaching strategies or teaching methods or attitudes, whatever, that impacts the students the most. And right now, his number one impact that he finds that we have on students' education is the collective teacher efficacy. And this is above all other influences. And basically, it is the collective teacher efficacy is teachers believing that they have an impact on their students and what they do. And so it's a true belief in themselves. And this is not easy.
Right. For any of us,
for
teacher
any of
or
us,
not.
yes. And so one of the things that with the collective teacher efficacy is that it is not something that teachers are good at. Most teachers I know, they're always passing the compliment, or they're always like, oh, it's not me, it's something else. And I think we talked about that earlier in the podcast earlier. But, they have to truly believe in what they're doing and that it has an impact. So that's basically what the collective teacher efficacy. It sounds simple, but it's very complicated. All right, let's take a little break from the podcast and let's really talk about the definition of collective teacher efficacy. So the description of the research says a collective teacher efficacy is the collective belief of the staff of the school faculty and their ability to positively affect students. CTE has been found to be strongly positively correlated with student achievement. A school staff that believes it can collectively accomplish great things is vital for the health of a school, and if they believe they can make a positive difference, they can very likely will. And that is from John Hattie's Visible Learning Plus website. All right, back to the podcast.
Let's start with some of the obstacles that prevent teachers from kind of believing in themselves. You're a teacher, and I know you've hearkened back to your days in the classroom lots of times on these podcasts, and even from a personal and professional standpoint, what do you see as some of those like blockades to this collective teacher efficacy, and what can we do about that?
Well, you know how we talk about STEAM, state of mind, and there is this state of mind in our culture, especially in the United States and in some other countries around the world, where teaching is not exactly the greatest profession or the most
noblest profession.
Yes, or respected profession in the community. I mean, nobody flats out says I don't respect teachers, but in the actions and in the way we conduct ourselves and the way society looks at education, it's right there. You can see that some teachers, they like their teachers, but do they respect it as a profession? And we're talking about culturally. And so that is a big obstacle. And that is something that hopefully in society we can change the mindset that, education is incredibly important, not for just the students to pass the test, but it's our future,
Right.
and it's the mindset of continuous learning and lifelong learning. That is one big obstacle. The other big obstacle is that I think that there's been a lot of, with the state testing and with other things, if you get a low score on something, no matter what or whatever, you're considered a bad teacher, or, like, oh my God, so it's hard for some teachers to take a risk. We got to, we do just what we're told to do, but don't go outside the box and think outside the box, because
we can't afford to not be teaching to what that test is going to ask us.
Right.
To
and we can't afford
test.
to take a risk that, well, let's try this out, because if you try it out and it fails, and it shows that failure kind of shows up in the test scores or whatever, well, then, you get all kinds of, evil looking eyes or whatever.
But what do we always
things.
say about failure?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a good thing.
Right.
We try again. But that's one thing we can't do in teaching, or the mindset is
Or
that
we don't.
can't.
Teachers don't feel the freedom to sort of branch out and maybe be ultra creative if it veers too far away from the way they're supposed to be doing things. Is that where we're getting at?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do with the STEAM. The STEAM state of mind is trying to get teachers to, it's okay. We can veer over here, but it's still going to be, your testing score is going to be great.
Right, because what we're doing, we're not veering away from what you're teaching. We're kind of enhancing
Yes.
what you're teaching.
Yes.
And doing it in kind of a different way than maybe you've always done it before.
Right. Well, and the students are highly engaged.
Right. And that's what I bet you in John Hattie's list of strategies that impact, I bet student engagement is probably high up there.
Yeah, it
I would
is.
imagine.
Well, they also, you have the big companies out there, curriculum, like these textbooks and programs and all that stuff that they think that, what they sell people is that if you do this, we've got, this is the magic potion. This is the way it should be done, and some of these things that are coming out now are so scripted. Mm-hmm. And, it doesn't allow a teacher to use their professional skills or to know what their students need. And they feel like they have to follow this scripted program and read what it tells you to do. Don't veer off, and make sure you do step 1, 2, and 3 or whatever. And the company, promises the district when they purchases this material that if you do this with fidelity, your test scores are going to...
Your results are going to be perfect. And
absolutely perfect. And you're going to, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then you have a teacher who has a script that they're supposed to read, and they're not supposed to, veer from, because they're supposed to do it with fidelity. And that doesn't allow a teacher to feel like a professional, or it doesn't allow a teacher to feel like they know what is best for their kids. Or
that they're going to impact that child.
That what their professional ability and what they have learned and what they know, and that it's something that impacts them it puts doubt in them. Like, okay, I guess I don't know what I'm doing because I have to read the script. And we have a lot of scripted programs out there in the educational world right now.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. So what's the answer to this? Because, we do have textbooks and workbooks and software and things like that we depend on to help our kids learn to read, write, and do arithmetic and all that good stuff. And, again, and I always throw this out. It's not that stuff is bad. It's not that,
right.
That the research isn't there that shows, if you follow this with fidelity, you'll have a good outcome. But what can we do to say it's okay to incorporate other things into that script? And how do we help, or what do we do as a district, as a field of education to give teachers that freedom to incorporate other things and to be creative along with that script?
So that's a really good question, because I believe before we can even get there, we have to start building a trusting relationship. There has to be this level of trust that teachers feel that the administration and the parents and the community and the educational world and the state of Ohio actually trust them to do their job. And that is something that I think is lacking, is that I think teachers feel like nobody really trusts them to know, what they're doing. And so it's like a doctor. I trust my doctor to know what
Tests
to do
you need, what
yes, what the blood work says, right, and diagnostics and all of this stuff that they go through to try to help me. Well, I believe, or I feel like there's not a lot of trust in the educational world for the teacher to be able to diagnose and to do what's best for that kid. And so I think we have to build a trust factor first. That is essential, because if you don't have that trust, you can't really go on to a lot of other things. And so the next thing that I believe that building that, collective teacher efficacy, where a teacher can feel like they are empowered in a way, that they are a professional, is to listen. I think teachers are told so much, and we're told, do this, do that, do this, do that. And then the parents say, do this, do that. The community says, we need this, we need that. And the state of Ohio says, do this, this, this. Then the national government says this, this, this. And then the world says, the United States is failing. And nobody's, how much are we listening to our teachers and sitting down and saying, tell us, what's going on and how can we build this trusting relationship, and what do you think we should be doing? And so there's some really good professionals out there, and there are some really good people out there who are listening, but we need the people who are making these decisions of, the state testing and the curriculum and all of these stuff to really sit down and listen. And I think that will help. Then the other part that I truly believe, that is to give teachers permission to make mistakes. We don't
really do that very well, do we?
No. Give teachers permission to fail. And it's okay. And that we're learning. Now, no teacher, I don't know any teacher out there that wants to try something that they know it's like, oh, this is just for fun, and we're just going to see, and it's going to, negatively impact their students. Okay, no teachers out there like that. But, we do have a lot of amazing teachers out there that want to try some things and want to be able to do things. And it might be a little bit different, but that's how we get creative. That's how we can come up with some absolute amazing things, like we do with the STEAM education right now, that I collaborate with all these different teachers and we work together and we're coming up with these absolutely amazing things. And, we need permission to do that and be okay. Okay, that didn't work out so well. It's okay.
So how does STEAM education contribute to CTE?
Okay.
Where does that come in? Because, that's, after all, what you're here for. Right, Bern?
Exactly.
Is the STEAM education.
It's that STEAM state of mind. It's the culture. And building that culture with the students in mind, as far as like allowing them to be able to make mistakes, to be able to go through the engineering design process, to be able to explore and discover and problem solve and all of this stuff or whatever. I think it energizes the teacher just as much as it does the kids. And that the teacher isn't reading from a script. They're problem solving with the kids, and they're working with the kids to solve problems, and I think that is an absolute, that's a great way of building up a teacher efficacy, that they know they're doing their job because their kids are engaged, they're asking great questions, they're being involved, they want to learn, and you're right there with them. You're in the trenches with them, and you're working with them to solve problems and to read and to write and to, do all of these things that are all integrated within the STEAM education. And so I think it's that, I was always motivated and really like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. When my students always had those aha moments, or when they would ask a higher level question, or when they would be like really working hard and highly engaged and trying to figure something out and going home and, coming back the next day and say, hey, I learned this from blah, 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 and whatever. Those things were like made me feel like, okay,
Right.
I'm doing a great job. I'm doing something because these kids want to learn. And I think that's what STEAM education does. So
not to talk about STEAM education as something super noble, but would you say that STEAM education can, if teachers experience that in their classroom, just like you just described, that could help teachers begin to believe in their ability to make a difference and to impact students in the classroom?
absolutely. And personally, like 15, 20 years ago when I started this whole, adventure, I will call it, into the STEAM world, is that, I felt almost numb to teaching in a way because everything was so scripted and I had everything, like having the kids regurgitate all this information to pass the test, and I was bored. And I didn't even feel like I was doing a good job. And that really frustrated me. And I don't think I had the confidence in myself as a teacher and doing what I thought was best for the kids. I was doing what the state wanted me to do as far as pass this test and with the district and the community and stuff like that. Tests are important. I'm not saying anything against that, but that isn't the end all of everything.
Well, and what you did as a teacher, because I've watched you do it over the years, is you looked at a different way of teaching what needed to be taught to the kids for the grade level that you were teaching at, and you just so happened to discover the beauty and magic of STEAM education to do that with your kids, and you were still, doing all your core classes and things like that, but you were incorporating these really amazing, fun projects and things with the students that, as you said, keep them engaged and excited. And what better way to learn than to do it by being engaged and excited?
Exactly. And you want the kids to want to learn. And that's what, I felt like going into the STEAM, mindset is that kids wanted to learn. And so, it wasn't boring. It wasn't something they're like, oh gosh, another, And so I changed my mindset, and but I took a risk, and thank goodness I had, a principal that supported me and was like, okay, go ahead. Because I didn't even have the words for it. I had no idea what STEM was. I just knew I wanted to do something different. Then as I explored it and worked with things,
Right.
I got into it. But that allowed me to develop more confidence in what I was doing because I was seeing the students successful. I don't know if everybody trusted what I was doing at the time. Some of the parents are like, oh, where's that spelling test? We have to have that spelling test. And it's like, no, we don't. That's just a memorization of words that the kids are going to forget next week, And so there were things that I changed that, I had to have parent meetings to explain to them, what I was doing. But then that also empowered me to be able to, explain my professional point of view and what I thought was best for kids to the parents.
Well, so you brought them along with you. You
Yes.
talked earlier in this podcast about, whether our teacher or our fellow teachers and our parents and our principals and our community trust us to be able to,
Right.
to effectively teach their children. Well, what you did is you brought them along and explained to them how this was going to work. While it looks different, the end result's going to be the same. Your kids are going to learn a lot, and they're going to enjoy learning it.
Right. Well, and I think what was the big part for the parents and jumping on board or whatever, it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from, is how excited their kids were. Like,
Right.
I've had parents tell me that, they never had their kids tell them what they did at school before. they get in the car and say, "Oh, what'd you do today?" "Nothing," and parents, when they do STEAM education, when the parents ask, "What did you do at school today?" "Oh, we did." And we're trying to, "Hey, Mom or Dad, can you help us with?" And that, it got them engaged and excited. And so they kind of changed their mindset, like, oh, okay, these kids want to learn,
Right.
And so all of that boosted my belief in myself and, like, okay, I'm on the right track. But the other part of all of this is that we need to have, I believe, to develop this STEAM mindset and increase collective teacher efficacy, is we got to get teachers time to collaborate and support each other and build off of each other as professionals, and that they can sit down together and be able to, brainstorm and collaborate and build off of each other's expertise, because I find that so powerful when I do that with teachers. And, there's a team that I'm working with, really intensely this year. And, I think they're like, when I told them, I think it was like in December, I was like, you guys are amazing. Like, look at all of this stuff that you guys have developed collaboratively that we worked on together. This is absolutely, great. First thing they say is like, "Oh, but Bern, you did this and you did that." And it's like, oh
Believe
my God.
in yourself.
you guys,
Yeah.
I listened, and I'm just putting the pieces together.
Yeah.
And you guys are the ones that came up with the pieces. And they all smile sheepishly, like, "Oh, thank you," and it's like, no, believe in yourself. And so that's part of my coaching job, is to try to get them to believe in themselves.
Build that efficacy.
Build that efficacy.
Yep.
We've got great people out there.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
and part of Kettering's Portrait of a Graduate is lifelong learner. We want kids to graduate from Fairmont and to be lifelong learners. And wouldn't you kind of say that what you just described with the collaboration and brainstorming, isn't that just in its simplest form lifelong learning? And can't that help teachers begin to believe in their ability to make a difference when they talk together about how to make this work and how to do it better, how to make it more interesting, more appealing, more engaging for students? So lifelong learning is a part of building this collective teacher efficacy.
Yeah, and so there was I just want to share this because this kind of goes with what we were saying. There's how you have all these blogs and all this stuff. So this person, her name is Helen Hoffman, she responded to a John Hattie article about collective teacher efficacy. And she said, staying on the surface and focusing on the need for teachers to feel they can affect learning rather than for giving teachers the actual power to affect learning. It's not so important that teachers feel they have collective efficacy. It's important to afford them efficacy, power to change things, and provide the opportunities to work collectively to do so. Isn't that amazing how power we need to empower teachers? We're going to take a break, a little pause for the podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about John Hattie's research. And he shares his research with a professional development program called Visible Learning Plus. And it is for teachers, and it provides an in-depth review and change model for schools based on his research. With a seminar and support series, Visible Learning Plus team helps schools to find out about the impact they are having on student achievement. All right, back to the podcast. It blows my mind of how many great creative teachers we have out there. Listening to them and let them feel that what they're doing is making a difference. And the decisions that they're making is a professional decision that is respected and people respond to it positively. And then, let them move, let them feel like they are part of a solution, not that the solution is just being given to them and saying, You do this scripted text and this scripted whatever, and guess what? Your students are going to be, fantastic and stuff. Don't do what you think. Do what this company sold us.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So if a district can successfully do that, then they will build collective teacher efficacy amongst their staff and faculty.
I hope. I think in Kettering we are trying.
I do too. Definitely.
I really believe that. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of bridges that need to be crossed.
Well, there's a lot of history. Education's been around for a long time.
Yep.
Back in the one-room schoolhouse. So.
And everybody, that's interesting that when you look at the history of education and the things that go into all of that, is that everybody, almost everybody, I should say, kind of reflects on what they think good teaching is based on what their educational experience is. Our educational world has changed so much.
Oh my goodness, since you and I were in school?
Oh my God, yeah. Those practices are non-existent, and they should be non-existent because they did the best that they could at that time. But what we have available to us now, parents and, legislators, they reflect back on their educational history.
Right.
And they think that's
when
what
I had
you
to
should
walk
do.
2 miles through snow, up a hill, barefoot, all that good stuff they like to say.
Yeah.
All right, on that note,
Okay.
Coach Bern, we have a question from Chelsea. You ready for that?
I am.
All right. So looking at STEAM education in a public school setting, how does that impact students compared to, say, like a Montessori school or a STEM school, which we have both of here in our area?
Yes. And so what is interesting is really what we're kind of talking about with teacher efficacy and the whole Montessori and I know the STEM school that is nearby us too. It's actually in Kettering. They're great schools. And the one thing that's different is that they do give the teachers a lot more freedom not to go by scripted things, and it's much more of an exploration, that type of thing. And so I think that is a big, state of mind shift. And we've had Montessori schools for a long time, and there is no, like some people believe that, okay, we need a Montessori school is too unstructured, or, the public school is too structured. And so there is a happy balance and medium between everything. There is no magic potion that we talked about earlier. That is where teacher efficacy comes in, where what they believe and what they are empowered in doing and stuff like that can really make that impact on those kids. And I truly believe in my visits to the STEM school and interacting with their staff. And I haven't had much interaction with the Montessori school, but I know at the STEM school, they believe and they have confidence in what they're doing. And they have, these collaborative meetings, and they do all the, they truly believe in what they're doing. And that's why their students are performing so well too. But you know what? We are working and we're doing this in Kettering too. And so when you say the impact of STEAM education, I think is not just the impact of the students, but also the impact for the teacher and the community and the culture of the whole school. And so I think that's where, if there's a difference, I think they probably have a little more CTE, but we are developing that and we're working on that. And so I think that's probably the biggest difference. And,
going way back to one of our first couple of podcasts, just talking about our district seeing the value of having a STEAM coach, somebody who can go out and work with and collaborate with teachers.
Yes.
And bring creative, different way of teaching into the classroom. So I'd say we're on the road.
We are. And we, let me tell you, there are some districts out there that they could double my salary and I wouldn't go there because of their very, and not just, I'm not talking about in the Dayton region or anything. I'm talking about you read these articles and you listen to teachers across the country. It's some of the meetings that I have and stuff. They are very limited in their choice in what they can do in their classroom.
Right.
And, they are not allowed. They're being monitored. And thank God Kettering doesn't do anything like that.
Right.
That we have a lot more trust in our teachers.
I was going to say, we have a lot of trust in
Yes.
the amazing teachers we have in the Kettering, that's for sure. So
Okay.
good stuff. All right.
Well, thank you, Kari.
Thanks, Bern. It's always great chatting with you. And
Hopefully
everybody next
warmer
time.
weather is coming.
well, I think we have a couple days of cold weather before the warm weather returns.
I'm ready for spring.
Myself as well. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.